is the stunning Kosciusko National Park, and I'm standing on the Great Dividing Range. And behind me are the beautiful wild Brumbies that live in this area. This is a stunning part of the world. But the reason I've come here is to see these guys, to get up close and personal with these wild horses. They've lived here for over 150 years. They're at one with this mountain.
The Snowy Mountains are Australia's alpine landscape, forming part of the Great Dividing Range, supplying a crucial watershed for the east coast of Australia. High rainfall and in winter snow means this region acts as a natural reservoir, storing and filtering water to support the environment. To understand life, I always look at nature's connections.
These are the stunning blue water holes in Kosciusko National Park, and this is a classic example of how water starts as small springs, flows into little streams and comes through these water holes and down through the mountain and turning into bigger rivers and bigger waterways.
I found myself in karst country, a landscape of underlying limestone that has been eroded and dissolved to form fissures, sinkholes, caves and tunnels. I felt like I had gone back to a world sculpted by nature. We made our way down to a picturesque waterfall to cool off in the icy mountain water. After a quick dip, it was time to make our way downstream to understand how this water nourishes our countryside. From here, fresh waters flow into our most crucial river systems, including the Murray, Murrumbidgee and the Snowy River.
I'm standing at the Murrumbidgee River. Now, this gorgeous little river will flow into a much bigger river. Now, the beautiful plain that you see behind me is known as Long Plain, and it's stunning. Everywhere you look, it's like a massive open plain. Anyway, there used to be mobs of wild horses, wild Brumbies, scattered along this range. People like me would flock from all around the place just to see these beautiful animals. And some of the people that spent a lot of time here got to know these horses personally and like they were family. But recently, this stunning plain and this whole national park became an absolute bloodbath, closed for months so they could aerial shoot some of the most stunning wild Brumbies in Australia. It's tragic to even think that people can do that to these magnificent animals. Standing here, it just feels a little bit like a ghost plane, like something's missing.
We're driving along Long Plain, which is its proper name, but I now call it the Lonely Plain. We're about to cross the headwaters of the Murrumbidgee River, and in times gone by, we would see horses, even on a day like this where it's currently 19, 20 degrees, they'd be down grazing on this green matter around the Bidgee. And to date, we've seen one small mob over, several months of coming back and looking. So she's a lonesome old plain.
I had the good fortune of being born into the Snowy Mountains as a child and raised in the Snowy Mountains and developed this spiritual and cultural connection with the land, with the animals and also with the people. It's not unusual for animals to spread around the world, and that's happened in every country, whether it be North America, South America, or in the continent, wherever it is, animals have moved from country to country. So this is nothing unique. And for the fact that horses came out here from Africa and India in the first instance, it was a necessity because that was the form of transport, that was the form of agriculture that was used and for entertainment. So, it's nothing unusual to have various species travel around the world. The locals for 150 years controlled the number of horses in the Kosciusko National Park region, and by catching them, retraining them and using them for a worthwhile purpose. That was outlawed by the National Parks and Wildlife Service, believe it or not, who had a free service there in controlling the numbers.
For years, a narrative has painted the Brumbies as invasive. But corporate control is famous for pitching false ideals. Those with experience understand the immense value of horses, from ancient cultures to modern day, and seek the need to restore the truth to protect these wild horses. For Brumbies, lucky enough to escape aerial shooting, Brumby rehomers dedicate their lives to saving the Brumbies.
Here we are at the Wild Brumby Rescue at Clearview, and we have the Brumbies that were rescued some time ago that are happy, and this is the lay of the land for them right now. And we're just awaiting some new arrivals, so these guys will soon have some new Brumbies come into this facility. But just have a look at how happy these horses are here. They're just beautiful. It's a little foal, only just born.
After being trapped and removed from their home in Kosciusko, a new load of beautiful Brumbies had arrived.
Walk it up, boys. There's the boys. One at a time, one at a time. Not a nasty one in the mob. We very, very rarely ever get one that is nasty. But these guys are a really lovely line.
These are stallions that have just come from the wild.
Well, they're stallions colts. They're on the verge of being... the black fella's probably a stallion. The one closest to us is probably a little bit close to a colt, just younger.
Yeah, the Brumbies are a big part of who I am, and of course I introduced Paul to them, and they've just become a big part of both our lives now. They come in terrified, absolutely terrified, and I'm the first person that they meet. I spend a lot of time in the yards with them when they first arrive, you know, moving them around, getting to know the individual personalities, you know, putting ones with, you know, quiet ones with flightier ones and so forth until we get them to the right mix. And then, you know, we start handling them, and Karen and the volunteers are the ones that spend a lot of time in the daytime just sitting with them or just talking and cleaning out the yards. And then, you know, we start the training process and stuff like that.
And what do you do, Angel?
I'm a travelling gypsy.
But you know horses?
I've had domestic horses. I've never had anything to do with wild horses, but they're certainly a beautiful creature.
Let them run. The first couple of days, they're just going to run, and then slowly they'll start walking, and then soon they'll just be, you'll be pushing them out of your way, right? Okay. Once the yards are done in the morning and just, you know, coffee and whatever else, it's a case of if you want to come down and do something, come down. There's chairs everywhere. Grab a chair, grab a bucket, fill it with some hay, go and sit in the yard. Just throw a bit of hay and get them to come up to you slowly. Get them to come up to you, slowly eat out of you, get them used to eating out of your hand. All that, that's all we start with. So for the next fortnight, that's what we do.
If you do a good job, you get a star.
Oh, really? I want the gold star.
Good worker.
Yes.
You don't get this every day, but I'm here at the Clearview Brumby Rescue. Hey, don't you bite? And I'm being smothered with attention by these beautiful foals. And this is pretty special. These are foals from the Brumbies that were rescued from Kosciusko National Park. And I think they all want to be cameramen because they constantly want to know what's going on with this camera. This is amazing. We've had an amazing couple of days just learning how magnificent these wild horses can be. And this is really special. These guys have been rescuing all these horses and making sure that the bloodlines are still here. So Dad's the main feeder here at the station. And we've got the beautiful mares and foals having a feed.
Eat that. Meat, ate yourself. You stay there.
The Brumbies have an interest to us because around our area in the Barmer forest, decided to cull them, you know, and they're just leaving the carcasses and
things like that, and it's just horrendous.
How long are you guys here for?
No plans. We'll just stay as long as I feel. Okay.
Yeah, same. Just, no hurry to go anywhere.
3 months, 6 months, a year.
Yeah.
They need us right now.
Yeah, and combination out in the bush with horses doesn't get better than that. What?
Originally, I've been looking at the stallions because I want something with a bit more height, only because I'm on the taller side. But in saying that, I didn't come here to be completely fussy because I just want to save a Brumby, really, or a couple of them, or.
Yeah. Come on. Just I read out. Yeah, look right there. Morning.
This breeding group is has got Shadow as the stallion with his mares. Shadow is a Coandra Grey, and these other mares are just a selected line of mares from down at KMP. Some did come from Coandra, some from the peppercorn region, but this is one of the bloodlines that we're just trying to retain and keep. Never let me do this before. We've become pretty good compared to what we used to be. Like, I can go up to him now in the paddock where he would never let that before. But this is all part of the trust that these guys will share with you as you build a relationship.
Now be careful, because I can throw.
That, but you be very careful. I've got a trolley full there.
You can throw better.
I can.
Karen and the volunteers are the ones that spend a lot of time in the daytime just sitting with them or just talking and cleaning out the yards. And then, we start the training process and stuff like that. Without Karen or without the volunteers, we couldn't do this. It's just too much for one person. I've literally been, I took all my long service, all my holidays, all my sick days, everything, and finished up my employment to spend the last 2 years devoted to what we've been doing.
So this is a beautiful Coven, and he was one of the wild Brumbies, and look at him after about 7 rides.
Yeah, he was trapped in Kosciusko and then rehomed to a group of people. And that rehoming fell through, so we came in and gave him a second chance. And, he's a good boy, this one. And he's handling everything with ease.
All the markings on him from battles out in the wild, protecting his mares and fighting off other stallions. So he's got quite a number of scars. Because he's such a handsome boy, there's lots of photos of him in the wild. And he's a very distinctive stallion. So out in the wild, he was called Brutus. And then when he came in here, I was here when his load came in. And I just gravitated to him straight away. I had no intention of rehoming stallion or any other Brumby, but when I saw Zeus, that was like, this is his. And I've just been working with him for the last 16 months. Barney's like his companion, but he's just good company. So when I take Zeus across to the yards for training, Barney will just hover around the fence line near him and he'll whinny across for him. And he won't wander off anywhere in the paddock. He just waits for Zeus to come back, and then they'll buddy up and off they go together.
Oh my God.
This is Precious. Precious has worked with very so many years. There we go. We have Wombat, who's our youngest little fella, and then we have little Kalimna behind you. And then we have Reba. So that's Xena, and she's Zeus's daughter from the grey mare Sweetheart up the top.
people say to us, why are you keeping stallions? Why are you thinking? Because it's just simple. Once they're wiped out, you can never get something back.
Yeah, this is Spirit's paddock with his mares, and these are all Spirit's foals from the mares from last season.
Hey, Al.
The genetics that are in the horses that are still exist in the Kosciusko date back to the colonisation of Australia. So the genetics in these horses still retain some of the older bloodlines that are extinct all over the world now. And so we still have a small catchment of those bloodlines that run in these horses today. Under the Wild Horse Act, shooting is off the table. However, our Environmental Minister, Penny Sharp, decided that she was going to take it upon herself to disengage that legislation. Unprecedented. The National Park was closed for 7 months, and it's never been closed since they took over the park 55 years ago. They closed the park and they did a full onslaught aerial cull of the horses that were in their mountains. There was probably a maximum of maybe 4,500 horses in the whole of the Kosciusko National Park. That was the last count that was done, proper count. Since the fires, they decided to take on a new method of counting, and they took on it's called Dr. Cairns. So that methodology was actually used in the counting of kangaroos for culling of kangaroos, and actually got annihilated in the Parliament by Penny Sharp as being, unfounded and corrupt and not usable, However, she now decided that it's in her favour to use it for counting Brumbies.
Kind of iconic, because we've got the movie Man from Snowy River, and that was like my favourite movie, and I just cry when I see those horses going down the mountain. It was just a classic, and I think everybody fell in love with the wild Brumbies.
I think everybody fell in love with the ruggedness of the mountains, the Brumbies, and also I think the epitome of the mountain man.
Well, everybody needs a mythological hero, and the people in the high country have the man from Snowy River. And so that's also ingrained in the cultural and spiritual connection with the land and the animals. So this is a belonging for us. The man from Snowy River is part of us.
So is this a Brumby from this land?
Yep. Yes, it's. We think she was trapped down here a bit further down. We don't know for sure, but we think that's where she originated from. Yeah.
Does she ever know when she's home? Does she?
I don't know. Like, she's been up here a time or two, so yeah, it's a bit hard to say. I had another little mare that I caught, and it was 3 years after we caught her, and Kylie rode her down to where her mob were when I caught her, and she sung out. She whinnied. Yeah.
Can you experience for it, Craig?
My second creek crossing thus far. So already in love with these mountains, can see why these guys get completely addicted. So we just saw some wild horses, 3 beautiful chestnuts, gorgeous looking horses, very similar to the ones we saw the other day, but right up here in the bushland. Pretty cool, hey Coles?
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, at least we've seen some live ones. Maybe spraying. Who knows? Where it goes.
Should just get natural lawnmowers like horses.
Exactly.
Part of the shame is that if you lose the horses, this grass overgrows, and then they have to get pesticides and all sort of horrible nasties into the park in order to control the weeds and everything. Whereas if you have a healthy population of Brumbies, they do the lawn mowing for you. God, it's lying. Yeah, very tragic.
Oh,
It's pretty sad, hey, Maud?
not nice, Joel, is it? Oh, we got that one.
Not what I wanted to see at the Mount. Part of the scenery these days. What's her name?
This is Dolly. Dolly's a Brumby from the southern end of Kosciusko National Park that had been trapped as a yearling. She got caught in a dog snare and saved. Used to love coming up to the mountains because it's such a special place for me because of my family history and my great-grandparents arriving up around Cayenne in the Gold Rush area in the 1860s. So it feels like coming home. The last 12 months, things have changed so much from, you know, I used to ride round and enjoy seeing the mobs of Brumbies. You know, it was a real excitement, even though you'd seen them a fortnight before or, you know, that didn't matter. It was still just the excitement of seeing them.
And watching the foals grow.
Yeah.
Progress of the foals and the mobs and the colours and, yeah, it was a pretty special time, actually. Yeah. And now, that's the joy of riding around to see the horses is gone. You can ride for hours and not see a horse. You know, we were here in the long weekend in October for 4 days, did 4 rides. In one day, we seen 5 horses. That's all we seen for the whole weekend.
In 2023, the government amended the Kosciusko Wild Horse Heritage Management Plan to allow aerial culling in Kosciusko National Park with the heritage Brumby herd. At the end of 2025, they removed heritage status altogether. This would allow heartless cull, where horses could be shot up to 15 times from the air, dying in agony.
This is the annual general meeting at Snowy Mountains.
That's correct. We're a long-standing organisation that have advocated for bush users. All these people are deeply embedded in cultural history of the mountains and recreational use.
Ghost Gully is to be bypassed also in the future, which will improve safety for all park users. Brumbies have become a political face of debate.
Well, probably one of the most significant things that happened in the Brumby world and Bugs world was our long and sadly not unsuccessful court case against the department. Late in 2023, the Minister announced her intention to resume the aerial culling of Brumbies after a 20-year ban. By early 2024, she'd embarked on a trial of this technique in the southern area of KNP. So by the time the park was permanently closed at Easter in 2024 to commence the cull, the committee and the legal team were in full swing to pursue whatever legal pathway may have been open to us. Within 3 weeks, a letter of demand was sent to the department to appear in the Land and Environment Court for an urgent injunction to cease shooting. Much of the evidence we were going to rely on in the Land and Environment Court had been given under parliamentary privilege to the inquiry and therefore was not admissible. So our legal team then immediately filed an interlocutory injunction notice of motion in the Supreme Court. National Parks and Wildlife made a submission to the court stating that any suspension of their current aerial culling would result in a financial loss of $266,000 a week. The matter was heard 2 weeks later in the Supreme Court before Justice Harrison and took place over 2 days. The committee's barrister, Oliver Jones, was very impressive in prosecuting the committee's case, and most of the observers believed that he'd done enough to convince the judge. When the date arrived and he delivered his findings some months later, the committee was devastated by Justice Harrison's finding that the minister had not acted inappropriately in reintroducing aerial culling, and a judge found that SMB had standing and had a case to bring. That was very small compensation because we wanted them to stop aerial culling. A letter was received from the department offering that both sides meet their own costs if Bugs would agree not to pursue an appeal of Judge Harrison's decision. SM Bug would have to go into receivership if it couldn't pay the department's almost $1 million legal bill. The almost total eradication contrasts with the intent of the Wild Horse Heritage Act, where a heritage 3,000 horses were to be retained. The loss of bloodlines extinct around the world due to breeding programs over the last 200 years is an irreversible matter and one of great sorrow. To go back when the gates opened this year and see nothing over 5 days of constant searching, and then to come back a fortnight later and find one lonesome horse that's still looking for its family.
Was it a mare?
It was a mare. She would have been 4 or 5 years old at the time. She had a foal that was shot down below here somewhere, as I recall. But this is the shot from the same time as the foal that was left to decompose in the waterway down there.
Oh, wow.
Cow point. So 3 years ago, this would have been the most prolific habitat for Brumbies in the northern end of the Snowy Mountains that I'm aware of. And after a serious cull the year before last, this is the remains. We've got these carcasses, this dear old girl that I found on the long weekend. It's nothing but a ghost town nowadays. Corango Plain is the lonesome plain.
So, Paul, what do you think how many Brumbies were here before November 2023?
As a long-term observer of 15 plus years, my estimate in the whole area, now I'm talking from the Erangabili side all the way across to the Tantangra side, all the way up to the ACT, perhaps there was as many as 4,000 horses. I wouldn't want to hazard a guess on the shootings because A, we've had no verified statistics released by the department, and as such, we don't have anything to base that on other than the anecdotal narrative of what we saw before and what we saw after. Well, look, I've always had difficulty with the ad hoc approach to removals, even prior to the first mass shooting that took place just over there, out in that little valley out there. Now, I walked out there with the girl that discovered the carcasses the same day that she discovered them, and there was 12 carcasses there that had been ground shot. The RSPCA signed off on 11 carcasses, so their duty of care was clearly not thorough because they didn't bother to count the total number of carcasses. Of the, I think it was 5 politicians from the inquiry, including the chair, Emma Hurst, and Wes Fang was there, Higginson was there, the Greens stand-in representative, and 2 Labor guys. And everybody except one of them agreed that they saw 70 horses when they flew from Corango over to Long Plain Hut. One of them said, no, I saw thousands.
How do you feel when they're making massive decisions on these mountains from corporate officers, political backgrounds, financial interests to help make those decisions or agendas to actually make the decision on these beautiful lives of these incredible
You're giving me
animals.
goose pimples now. There is no way that there is anywhere near 21,000. They would have been lucky to be hit 4,000 in the whole...
Before the culling.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't only just ride the northern end.
No.
We ride Snowy Plain, which is another part of the area, and we also go down round the Pinch.
It is the extrapolation of the numbers. It is timesing them by like 100 or whatever, 1,000, to come up with fairy unicorns, ones that don't exist.
What do you think about the fact that they said there were like 24,000?
No way in the world there was ever that many here. That's just, bureaucratical bullshit, I reckon.
Eroded the trust. Any trust that was left in the bureaucracy was totally eroded by the claims of these outrageous numbers. We knew that the numbers were not there. The people up here riding around 5 days a week knew that they were lying. And the cultural and spiritual connection we've got with the land is the same as any other native. We are, in fact, native to the Kosciusko National Park. And the loss of that spiritual connection and the intrusion into our life is something which has completely destroyed and eroded a sense of faith in government and the process of democracy. To have the Brumbies now slaughtered, which is part of our cultural history, is almost beyond belief for the people that live here.
When Guy Fawkes' slaughter came, it was an agreement that aerial culling was totally off the table. It would not be used as a control method. None of my family support RSPCA anymore. Because they've gone against their own standard of practice, they've gone against their own mission statement, their principles and values. So they've betrayed themselves to do an underhand, what I believe an under-table handshake deal for additional funding. And I watched the RSPCA in regards to the inquiry regarding cruelty to animals. The CEO didn't know what was happening, would have to refer, would have to take that on notice, would have to get back to you. If a person is a CEO of a company, wouldn't you think they knew what was going on? Panic, separation anxiety for being splintered off the mobs, having a mare maybe looking over her foal that's laying dying through the panic and breaking its leg, then waiting and then she's been shot. What happens to the foals? Seen so many atrocious stories and atrocious movies and atrocious pictures of what's actually been happening in the park. And if we could just make the general public know it's not all cut and dried, one shot and they're gone painlessly. I've seen videos of horses stumbling and in pain and thrashing, and orphan foals standing beside their dead mother, or shot mares who have spontaneously aborted their partially developed foal. No way is a cull okay.
It was absolutely disgusting what they done to them, and with them saying that anywhere from 9 to 15 shots per horse was acceptable. That's ridiculous. It's just plain right cruelty.
The notion that the political donations process is all transparent is an absolute nonsense. And I think, generally speaking, that's where all of these problems start. If we were able to follow
lobbyists,
follow the money, who investigates them? I think it's going to be an ongoing problem. They've already indicated that trout are next on the list, and they might have a bigger fight on their hands there, because a lot of Supreme Court and High Court judges trout fish. I know. I know that because I've taken them fishing.
I think the Brumbies as part of these mountains is such an asset.
They are. A lot of people say, well, they're not native. No, they may not be native, but they've become naturalised. They've adapted with the environment, and the environment has adapted to them, and they've both thrived. They've both managed each other. Natural attrition for the horses, and fuel load managed by the horses, keeping them down.
I love the sitting, like you were saying, sitting, watching, learning, because the more time you spend with them, the more you learn about their family dynamics. And that's an amazing experience. And I think that there's a lot of people that should come down and do that before they start making decisions about the future. he's peppercorn, but he's no more than 2 years old, and that's what's left. So I'm not sure if he's hers or he's just tagging along because that's all that's left of the peppercorn mob. But it's very sad because there's historic value there with the peppercorns and now there's not. So yeah, a little bit emotional.
They're beautiful horses.
They are. After the trauma that they've been through, I'm surprised that he stayed as long as he did.
A young lone peppercorn colt made his way into camp. It's hard to imagine what he must have endured and been through, but he approached the other horses. His need for company outweighed the fear, and he stood watching. But once people stirred, he sensed a danger. Alone, he made his way back to the bush. This was a magnificent animal, no more damaging than any human that may enter the park, and far less damaging than the faceless corporations that had invested in this area. The irony of humanity prevails.
And I want to try and emphasise on you today how serious National Parks and Wildlife Service are at getting rid of horse riding out of the Kosciusko National Park, along with all our cultural and spiritual heritage that we've established over 150 years or more. And as you know, I conduct commercial horse treks at the Kosciusko National Park. I'm a licensed tour operator and have been for 25 years. I've always paid my bills. I owe the National Parks and Wildlife Service nothing. I get an account from National Parks and Wildlife Service for $24. I'm not joking. I was given 30 minutes to pay it. As a consequence of that, I did an interview on 2SM in Sydney and was highly critical of the government and called on a Royal Commission into the National Parks Management of not only the administrative management of the National Park, but also fire management, management of feral animals, weeds, the whole lot. And in that interview, I was highly critical not only of the National Parks and Wildlife Service, but also of the former director, Fleming. So, as a consequence of that interview, 4 hours later, I received an email from the National Parks and Wildlife Service legal team asking me to explain why I had a group of riders over the trap site of Port Phillip Fire Trail, including details of the riders, my staff, the horses, where we're going, the route we're travelling. The fines involved in me not complying with that are up to $1 million. And all of you are here today, a representative of families that have been here for generations. We don't deserve this.
A result of Parks Victoria's scientific study into the environmental score of the area immediately south of the river determined that land held by Tom Grogan Station as freehold cattle grazing land had a higher environmental score than the neighbouring national park. And as a result, they entered into an agreement with Tom Grogan Station whereby 110 hectares of their freehold land would now have cattle excluded from it with the intention of doing a land swap. And they wanted to swap 2 parcels of land. One is immediately to the west of Tom Grogan Station and it's only a small parcel. It's about 18 hectares. The other parcel of land was to the southeast of Tom Grogan Station. And it's part of the Alpine National Park and it's part of the Indi Wilderness area. Now, it went before the Supreme Court. Now, it fell over. And it fell over because national parks in Victoria are subject to native title. And the Indigenous communities wanted an assurance that in swapping national park for freehold land, that the Indigenous communities would have a right to claim native title on what is currently freehold that was about to revert to national park. But the key message in it is grazing land that is freehold attached to a historic cattle station like Tom Grogan, it's been there for, 150 years or more, has a higher environmental score, having been constantly grazed, than the surrounding national park that's been locked up. The science shows that the grazing, whether it be cattle or horses, does not negatively impact the land. And it's stated by Parks Victoria's own scientific team in documents presented to a course. It's not an environmental argument that we're up against, it's a political argument.
Tom Grogan area, it's where Jack Riley, the man reported to be Banjo Patterson's main inspiration for the famous poem, The Man from Snowy River. He lived about 4 k's further east from where we are now, and the last occasion that he visited was roughly within 10 days of starting to write that poem. So it's, from a heritage point of view, an incredible place. From a folklore point of view, it's probably one of Australia's most significant places. And I just love the fact that we still have a connection to that heritage with those wild horses. I took you guys into an area yesterday that was the headwaters of the Yukonbean River. Now, this argument's been thrown around that horses disturb the headwaters, which increases silting up of our waterways, creates turbidity, does all of this. And yet directly below every one of those headwaters, the Murrumbidgee, Tantangra Dam, the Yukonbean, Lake Yukonbean, the Snowy, Lake Jindabyne. How can we complain that something's mucking up a headwater when 2 kilometres downstream from that headwater, we're building massive infrastructure and dams which directly impacts hydrology, directly impacts the health of those waterways, because we're now controlling when the water flows, how much of it flows. That's got huge negative impacts. Now, we walked down across a beautiful alpine frost plain, and it was grasses, it was heaths, it was moths, it was everything. We got to the Yukonbean River and we followed the edges. How high above the water were we? 2.5, 3 feet?
Yeah.
Natural erosion over thousands and thousands of years carved that waterway. If we look to Indigenous culture and law, the Great Serpent followed that pathway, that the waters then followed and slowly but surely eroded out to create all of these rivers. So ancient songline history showed us how the waterways were created. I showed you guys what would be called horse impact. It's not, because all of the animals follow in a straight line when they're moving long distances, and then they pan out grazing, which is slow movements. That pad that we ended up following back out, no bare ground, we caught it all on film. It is beautiful grass, short grass, but grass nonetheless. They found a place on the Yukonbean River where a natural rock formation, instead of dropping vertically 2.5 to 3 feet to the river, gently sloped down. They chose that place to cross the water. It's safer for them, it has less impact. So sure, you can see that a horse has crossed here, but you can see that a deer's crossed there, you can see that a wallaby's crossed there, you can see that every animal has now chosen that as their crossing point. All of the banks upstream, all of the banks downstream, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of metres, were untouched, natural, no damage. This water is crystal clear. Have a look at it down there in her hands. This is the purest water you will ever drink, folks. The narrative is wrong. There is no chemical, there's no fluoride, there's no chlorine, there is nothing but nature's filtration.
This is much cleaner than any of the water that we have at home right now in any of our creek systems. This is beautiful.
So let's not twist the truth to suit an agenda and blindside people in Sydney. Let's tell the truth. The truth of the situation is nature doesn't breed beyond its capacity to feed. And nature moves on when there's no food on the ground for it. But nature is all around us and nature is healthy. The only thing that needs to change is man needs to stop stepping in believing that he is right, because nature is telling us he is wrong.
In 1987 and 1988, the Swiss animal welfare organisation Foundation Franz Weber brought the Brumby massacres to international attention, launching a global awareness campaign that sparked widespread public outrage. In November 1989, Foundation Franz Weber purchased the former cattle station Bonrook, located 220 kilometres south of Darwin in the Northern Territory. The foundation transformed the former cattle station into the Franz Weber Territory, a safe haven for Brumbies and native wildlife. Bonrook's project manager, Victoria Kirchhoff, explains.
They killed all the natural enemies of the horses, like dingoes. Then an overpopulation of the horses is possible. Then, because they usually catch the foals, and that is also actually one of the reasons why Bonrook has a stable horse population, because we don't poison the dingoes and they catch foals. And that's a natural equilibrium. So this is the problem. When humans interfere, then you have a disaster programmed.
Bonrook stretches across 495 square kilometers of subtropical bushland, a vast fenced sanctuary unlike any other in Australia. It's the only protected reserve in the country where a significant population of Brumbies can live in safety, roaming freely in their family groups, undisturbed and unhandled. Here, these resilient wild horses have adapted to the extreme seasons of the Northern Territory, from the heavy monsoon rains to the very dry months. Around 800 Brumbies share the sanctuary with around 120 wild cattle, 100 water buffaloes, over 150 bird species, and numerous native wild animals. We can confirm that all these animals coexist harmoniously in natural balance. After nearly 40 years of experience, Foundation Franz Weber has seen firsthand that Brumbies do not damage the land, nor do they threaten native wildlife. In fact, they play a vital ecological role. Through grazing, they control plant growth. By reducing dense, dry vegetation, they decrease bushfire risk. By eating coarse plants, they recycle vegetation and make more nutritious plants accessible to other herbivores. And their amazing manure growth strengthens microbial life and supports water retention.
Yeah, it almost looks like there was maybe poo here at one point, and then that has now created this.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with this land. Like, there's nothing destroyed.
Not at all.
At all.
As the horses move in their semi-nomadic patterns, they disperse seeds, encouraging natural regeneration and supporting biodiversity across the land. So, Bonrook is more than a refuge. It is a living example of how wild horses and native ecosystems coexist in harmony, and how, when protected, they can help each other flourish.
So did the horses do anything negative to these corroboree frogs? No more than any other critter that walks on this pathway, being emu, deer, wombat, wallaby,
Human. Yeah, someone's plastic here.
the wild
Which I'm going
pigs.
to take. It's not from us.
So you've been here 50 years.
Yep.
Have you seen the horses be the impact? Now they're labelling them feral. Do you think they deserve anything like that?
No, look, I don't. To be honest, mankind is far more feral than a wild horse. I'll be honest, mankind is far more feral than a wild deer, even in this environment. The deer, the horses, any of those creatures, they don't leave their rubbish laying around. You've only got to walk out and down the side of the highway, pick up Coke cans, plastic bottles, lolly wrappers, follow the Australian Alps walking trail, because I'm carrying the empty water bottles and Coke cans in my camera bag to get them the hell out of that environment. We have organisations like the Invasive Species Council, Reclaim Kosciusko, Young Naturalists, Friends of the National Park, and a multitude of them. And they all love spinning this dialogue that the horses are defouling the waters. Now, the bottom line is, you don't drink from your toilet bowl, neither do horses. So they're not going to defile the water that they need to survive. It doesn't happen. Their evidence was very selective. They went to areas that they knew there were either a larger population of horses, so up around Kurringo Homestead, on the banks of Tantangra, a man-made reservoir as part of the Snowy Skunk. Now, when it's full of water, obviously the ground absorbs moisture and it becomes soft. It expands because it's full of water. But as they let water out of Tantangra and the water goes away, the green pick starts to come through. So it entices all sorts of wildlife, horses, wallabies, roos, emus, because it's sweet, juicy, fresh. They love it.
You can see over here where they're boring. You can see over here, this is where the hydro is, and behind us over here is the camp. Before the shooting, the closure of the park and the shooting, we could come through here and you could see Brumbies would be scattered in the tree lines. They'd come out, they would be mobbed here, up in the back here. They'd come down for water. So there's never, thousands. There was just, the odd ones here and there. And you drive through here now and it's dead. There's no life here at all. You don't see a wallaby. You don't see a dingo. They've shot everything that moved, that they could get to, and then they put 1080 out, which is so horrible. And what they didn't shoot, they've basically poisoned. It's taken the life out of the mountains. And it's also taken the life out of people that love the mountains. We come here not just to be a part of their existence. We come here because they give us strength, they give us life, they are a part of our souls. They're a part of us, all of us. And these mountains are the lifeblood of Australia. And it's sad to see that in just a short amount of time, they started with the fires, and then from there it's just been a roll-on effect, and they've literally taken the life out of it. You see the destruction from the fires everywhere, 5 years on, and there's nothing recovering. Mismanagement leading up to that is what caused this. Then from there, they've shot the life out of the mountains by shooting the Brumbies, and now they're killing everything else.
With poison.
I can't understand the mentality of our government. I can't understand the mentality of people in these areas of voice being, the Reclaim Kosci and invasive species and all of these so-called people that want to preserve, and all they've done is kill.
Well, just think, Morsey, you've saved over 400 of them, darling. 400 Brumbies you've saved out of these mountains. It's a big, big effort.
big effort by you and Paul. Big effort.
When we do a handover with the Brumbies to the new owners or the trainers, we like to make sure that we do a proper handover so that the horses understand they're very calm and relaxed with the new people.
Normally I'll call him and he'll look up and come cantering across, and then I'll just fence him into his little pen, give him his chaff and halter him up and walk him across the road and spend about 40 minutes, half an hour working with him.
Yep.
So...
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have here your DNA kit. Wow, okay. All right, so your DNA, this explains everything here. Yeah. But you can do that. You do the hair samples and that as well anyway, okay? So that goes to a different section, okay? No problem. All right.
Is that going to be your buddy today? Let's hope so.
Video cute. Oh, you're coming over too. No. So we're at Jo's place, and these are the beautiful horses. She's got a couple of stallions and a gelding. And these are also from Maureen's property. I think they're just waiting at the fence line for Jo to come. But yeah, it's a beautiful time of day. We've got the sun setting in the mountains behind us. And what a beautiful property this one is. But how special are these horses that they rescue from Kosciusko? So where'd you get this stallion from, Jo?
So these are Cosy Brumbies. So both these stallions came from, I mean, even the chestnut fella, he's a gelded fellow, from Paul and Maureen at Thangool. So they do the Queensland rescue for the Cosy Brumbies. And she knew I wanted the coloured stallion, so when they got a bit of colour in, she called me up and she said, I got your stallions.
That's a big sign.
Yes, it's from a daddy boy. So Gus, the chestnut fella, I'd say was probably very badly traumatised in trap yards or mishandled by, you know, the trappers, because he's super, super highly sensitive. Cash, the grey fellow, he's a stallion and he's broken in.
Not quite, but nearly, aren't you?
And he's just such a chilled stallion, like straight out of the wild. Yeah, he was easy to touch, you know. Once he knew you and got your smell, I could start doing his head, and then he actually started to swing his bum around and wanted me to scratch his bum. So was a very chilled stallion.
Is just something really special because you can see them and spend all that time back in the day, early morning, during the day, in the evening, and watching their interactions between each other, watching the bubbas being born and then growing up and just seeing that family bond that is so strong between them. And people that don't see that can't understand it.
There was one bloke sitting by the campfire with a cowboy hat on, and he was the only one sitting by the campfire. So I thought I'd go over and have a yarn with this bloke. And he was a horseman. And he started telling me about his experiences in the Snowy Mountains and riding his horse into an open area one day. His horse became really agitated and he didn't know why. And all of a sudden, when he got into the clearing, these two stallions reared up and started fighting. And it sent a tingle down my spine. And from that moment, maybe 30, 35 years ago, I said, one day I've got to capture that. And the first time I did was, you know, from here to the hut, you know, maybe 400 metres away, and I was ecstatic that I'd actually captured a stallion fight. But when they start interacting, not necessarily combatively interacting, but when the foals start doing zoomies, you know, just little things like that, it sends a tingle, you know, up your spine. And there's something, one of my editors once said to me that mankind has had this association with horses for centuries, and it's almost embedded in our DNA to have this empathetic relationship with horses. And he told me that he can run a picture of a horse and it will get enormous amount of response, whereas the same coverage of a lesser animal, be it a goat or a deer or whatever, we don't have that empathy. And he firmly believes that we have embedded in our DNA a codependency relationship with the horse because of the multitude of generations that we've had this interaction with horses. And one of the things that really saddens me about what's happened up here is there were horses running here for 180 odd years, right? Now, in that 180 years, we as a species have repurposed the horse to specific tasks, you know, thoroughbreds for recreation, you know, ponies for mining and so on and so forth. Now, in this process, a lot of the ancient breeds of horses have actually gone extinct in that 200 years because this has been an accelerated process since the Industrial Revolution, which more or less coincides roughly with, you know, the arrival of white settlers in Australia. Now, of the horses that were running here, we've had DNA tests done. We're part of a DNA collection group because we believe in citizen science to help vindicate the validity of these things being on country. So what has happened in this one fell swoop is that they have wiped out a genome that had existed only here, anywhere in the world. It's a massively important resource to the equine world, globally.
It's not something that you can look at once and say, okay, I know how it works. The time that I've spent with individual mobs and my learning experience is something that's happened over time. I've done it for years, and sitting with a mob and, you know, watching their family dynamics and learning about each individual member of that mob, looking at their personalities and the way they interact with each other in that family unit, and then also watching how that family unit functions with the neighbouring mob. It's not something that you can come and look at once and pick it up. It's something that develops over time, and that's something that Mr. what's his name in the office up there that's making all the decisions he's never going to understand it, because even if miraculously he's been down here once, he's not going to see that, or he's not going to understand it, because it's a passion that you have to have.
I don't think they realise once they take all these horses out who've been here 180, 200 years, once they take them out and other things that are taken out with 1080, whatever, what's going to happen? Because they don't know. They have no idea what
nature abhors a vacuum.
One of the big things that we know will happen is a major fire, which happened back in 2003, then 2013, then 19 and 20, and it just annihilated the area up here.
It's quite apparent that, you know, these people do want to eradicate any remnants of
our colonial history,
our heritage history.
How come our government is the one government in the world that wants to just wipe us out? The government of today is so removed from the people. It's not. They've got no connection.
Zero scientific studies that have been done up here that can underpin policy. And what underpins policy in many aspects of this country is lobbying. And so you get very powerful, very highly funded lobby groups that assert that influence over the top end, and this is only my opinion, and no care or concern is made for anybody with first-hand lived experience. It's all based on this ideological thing that is coming out of high-end, partially disconnected from country bureaucrats, and everything is a hierarchy of control. You're working your way from the top down, whereas they should be feeding more information and science from the bottom up. I entered a photograph in a global photographic competition for black and white photographs. This one stallion reared up with this amazing look in its eyes, and its mane was all flying, and I called it the Brumby rebuke. It was telling this other horse, no, I'm boss cocky round here. And it finished up in the 1% of global wildlife photographs that that magnificent black stallion that lives on the plain down there, or lived on the plain down there, was bringing a foal out of the fire zone. And then they all gathered on this totally post-apocalyptic landscape of burnt country. And I was almost in tears at what they'd been through and what they had survived. I noticed a badly burnt mare lying on the ground, and 4 other of her mares gathered around her, and it was the most sentient moment of empathy between these animals, and you feel it. And I just couldn't believe the amount of bond that there was in this mob of horses, that they would come possibly to see her off, you know, and provide support and comfort to her in that terrible, terrible moment.
The government pay a scientific professional to come out and do a study on the Brumbies for their information and whatever else, and his opinion was that they were cannibalistic. So there's a difference between what you, as an understanding of the horses, understood and felt, and an outsider.
And you don't suddenly realise that you acquire that for a long period of time of observation. And now we have an experience when we return to this country of denudement, absolutely exorcism of all of that. And it's traumatic.
Well, you called it trauma, and it is trauma. What I used to come here for, and what I used to see, and the mobs that I used to spend time with and learn from and experience, that's all gone. They've eradicated all of that, and there's next to nothing left. So when I come up yesterday, for the first time in a while, there's an emptiness here that wasn't here before. So that's very traumatic for me, because, as I've said several times, it's therapy. For me, being here is therapy, but it doesn't feel that way anymore.
So we found who we came to find. Poster boy is down here having his feed, and he's with a small number of the horses, but we've got another couple of stallions in this mob, and we have this gorgeous mob behind us. So after days and days of searching,
in normal scenario, you have 2 stallions in a mob, the lead stallion and the lieutenant, and in that you see if anybody comes close to their mobs, there's quite a bit of rivalry. We've now come here and we've seen Poster Boy interacting very, very closely with 2 other stallions, which is quite unique in my opinion. I see the stallions at home when they come all together and whatnot that goes on within, but I've actually just now witnessed 3 stallions literally walking amongst each other, and the mobs moving and interacting quite closely together, which I found is very unique. So in that, I'm not sure whether that's a case of they're going, the safety in numbers, and we're more in tune with being together, closer together now, or what, I don't know.
being here with these horses is something that you never forget. It stays with you, it'll stay in your heart, it'll stay with you in your mind. Watching them, how peaceful they are after every single thing we've done to them.
We've just got to at least have a crack at exposing this corruption, or like any corruption, it's going to continue to get worse. It starts off, and then if it's not stopped, or if there's no oversight of it, then they get gamer and gamer, and it won't end. It'll just keep going, and we'll have more and more of these, you know, rights that we should have to be able to go into a national park or to see the Brumbies or to be able to go fishing or whatever without being told no by 10 or 12% of the population.
They have literally chased horses by helicopter into the tree lines and slaughtered them with up to 15 bullets per horse. That is not humane.
I don't hold a great deal of faith for the future of what we will find after the next closure.
Yeah, it's a scary thought.
Demonstrated the extreme lengths that they will go to when the opportunity of no observation is there.
That I can go with peace and knowing that I've actually done something substantial with my life and saving these horses, saving the heritage in the future for the future generations, preserving some lives in the fashion that we've done means absolutely everything to me. It's worth all the pain, the heartache, the stress, and the emotional turmoil that it's put me under for the last 5 years.
Here's a friend.
My beautiful girl. These horses have saved me as much as I've saved them.
These horses have survived 180 years in harmony with these mountains. Industry, pesticides, machinery, fires and tourism leave deeper scars than horses ever will. It's time for us to hold up a mirror and find the true intention behind the closures. While a Brumby stands tall and strong to challenge for power, man's battle for resources means innocent lives are caught in the crossfire and past mistakes are repeated. It's time to fight for what is right. Don't let this be the Brumbies' last stand.